Taliesin, quick! Rally the troops! The Horde are attacking! Which is super sneaky, frankly, because it's not even 8.1 yet, and there's no one here to defend the city except us! Taliesin, come on! We have to go, like, now! Taliesin! Taliesin! Taliesin. Taliesin, they're still attacking. Fine. Do it myself. You're the worst.
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet and welcome back to another weekly reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdom Show, a show where we will be talking about Jaina and the state of the Battle of Dazar'alor raid, take a look at all the new Darkshore revamps for 8.1 in time for the new Forsaken vs Night Elf Super Grudge match Warfront with some surprising and fun additions. Give you the lowdown on all the WoW 14th anniversary fun times and take a look at all those leftover BlizzCon Q&A questions that Ian has now got round to answering, although fair warning, if you really hate war and Titan forging, which I know a lot of us do, and we haven't got to that bit of the show yet, and I don't want to give anything away, right? But you won't believe what's at number 5. But before any of that, a quick update on by far the most important news of the week. Hippo Watch. How is Tally's PvP progress going towards getting his first ever in-season PvP mount, which also just happens to be the best PvP mount and actually probably the best mount ever? Well, last week you remember that we clawed our way up to 56%, and this week with the clock ticking on Season 1, we stand at a mighty 56%, because, okay, let me explain this, alright? Arena 3s are genuinely one of my favourite things to do in WoW right now, but it's been a very busy week, and I just didn't have an evening to spare, okay? It's not because we lost a load of games and fell out of the bracket where I could earn progress for the Hippo, who, by the way, I'm obviously going to call either Harold or Maurice. I would tell you if that had happened. I've got nothing to hide, but that totally didn't happen, okay? I just didn't have time this week. But next week, oh man, I've got a feeling next week is going to be a bit special for Hippo Watch, so watch this space, you hippo. And so, to our first major story of the week, and I have to admit, this is one of those weeks where we had to think long and hard about what WoW happenings we wanted to get really stuck into, because a couple of times this week with the news, just when it looked like something a bit spicy was going on, it turned out not to be that big of a deal after all. So, like when ex-founder David Brevik came out and criticised Blizzard for ending the employee profit sharing scheme and getting rid of the Christmas bonuses, and there was justifiable outrage, because you don't mess with your employees at any time, but especially not at Christmas, alright Blizz? That's what Macaulay Culkin almost said in Home Alone 2, and it still rings true today. But then some idiot spent about 2 minutes actually fact-checking, and unfortunately Blizzard haven't cancelled their profit-sharing scheme, and they still get all of the money from the Christmas bonus. It's just incorporated into their standard pay throughout the year, because that's what loads of them asked for. And in fairness, you can't even really blame David Brevik for getting that wrong, because he hasn't worked for Blizzard for 14 years, all of which is obviously good news for people who work at Blizzard, I guess, but bad news for internet hate boners everywhere, and no good for this show. There was the revelation that maybe Alex Afrasiabi revealed in a Eurogamer interview, of all places, I mean, come on, that Sylvanas was behind the Wrathgate. Possibly. That got people talking for sure, and there's loads of fun stuff to argue and speculate over, but we did a whole video covering it in the week, and anyway, the general thinking from many players is that Alex Afrasiabi must have misspoken about his own lore, because he misspeaks sometimes, but only about that. There's absolutely no chance he could have misspoken and accidentally revealed something that wasn't supposed to be official knowledge yet. That would be stupid. No, he clearly misspoke and got it wrong. That's far more believable. And then the WoW forums themselves were reworked and updated, and I thought, bingo! If ever there was going to be a forum shit show, it would be about a change to the forums, right? I mean, it's just so perfect and meta and 21st century, count me in. But no, even that was disappointing, because actually, everyone loves the new forums. That shouldn't be a surprise, really. The old system had been around for years, and if there's one thing the WoW community, especially the WoW forum community, are good at, it's taking change in their stride. So, from the fact that everyone is essentially starting from scratch again with fresh contributor stats and records, to the entirely new layout, it was generally agreed that no, it was a shit show, obviously. These new forums are stupid and dumb. This is horrible! Totally unreadable. Anyone who enjoys this style of forum is an idiot. New forums equals George Orwell's 1984. But even that doesn't really scratch my big drama itch, you know? I feel a forum shit show about the forums is just a bit too easy somehow. And anyway, all you need to say about the new forums is that you can use emojis on them now, so, you know, awesome. But there aren't any WoW specific emojis to use, so, you know, screw you, Blizz. So instead, this week, we're going to be doing something a little bit unusual, and we are not going to have a shit show segment. Especially if you don't count that one that we just had. Because this week I want to talk about something that everyone is really happy about, and which is getting some big praise from the kind of people you would want it to. And that is the new raid coming up in 8.1, the Battle of Dazar'alor. And we're going to put an orange spoiler warning bot up for this, but to be honest, that's just to cover our backs. There's not really anything here which is not public knowledge that has been put out by Blizzard. We're barely going to show you any actual footage of the raid itself. We're not even really going to talk many specifics about it, because this is a story about the response to the raid and what that might mean for 8.1. Because it's fair to say that when patch 8.1 launches in December, there is going to be plenty riding on it, and hopes are high, especially among the creator community, which is understandable. Belialar hailed it as the end of beta for Azerite, which is quite an ironic title considering he's talking about something literally on the PTR right now, but you get the idea. And it's true that on the face of it, this is a patch that does a lot to address many of the players' main concerns with the expansion so far. Azerite armor changes, a round of class balancing with some problem specs getting proper love, a disc priest nerf that we don't talk about because it's bad for our blood pressure, shitting vendors added for Azerite gear and island expeditions, and Warfront loot which you pay for with actual currencies that you earn by doing things like it's 2011 or something. And of course, the Battle for Dazar'alor. Now, I've been massively excited about this split faction raid ever since we predicted it back in March, and even more so since it was actually officially announced, because even before anything else, it's just an awesome idea. A raid where the main enemy is the opposing faction, and where your progress through the raid is different depending on whether you're Horde or Alliance. I mean, that's just really exciting anyway, but put it slap bang in the middle of the city that Horde players have called home since August, throw in bosses the caliber of Rastakhan, Mekkatorque, and oh yeah, Jaina Proudmoore, and okay, Blizz, you've got my attention with this one, partly because, yes, it does sound pretty wonderful, also because of the morbid fascination I have too, because let's face it, there's potential for it all to go terribly wrong and just be awful, isn't there? And nobody wants that. Maybe Az. No, not even Az. He's got Immortal for those kind of videos now. No one wants to see it fail, especially because it is attempting something new with a tried and tested format. But here's the thing. Any raid lives and dies by its boss encounters. Obviously, those are the bread and butter of not just raid content, but arguably WoW itself, which is why interest in the PTR testing for Dazar'alor has been incredibly high. This is just another thing that 8.1 has to get right. And look, I know it's very limited testing on the PTR under very controlled conditions. I know it's too early to make any real judgments. I know that facing all the bosses for the first time is not the same as running the same instance for months at a time. I know that this is a raid which more than any other in history has potential issues with its overall structure and form that we need to see pan out. I know you're not going to listen to anything good I have to say about it anyway, because I'm just a shill Blizz loving shill man, Blizzard's man shill, and that's fair enough. Man, I'm so shill that I can literally say I'm not defending mobile gaming here. I'm not defending a very poorly judged announcement at BlizzCon, and I'm certainly not defending Immortal. Go ham on that all you like, I don't care. And that is taken as a straight up defense of all of those things by people whose gut feeling of my shilliness transcends things like, you know, what I actually say or do. So fair enough. And look, I'm no cutting edge raider either, so would never think myself qualified to assess the PTR tests anyway. But there are some people who I think are. People like Sloopbag and Preach and Automatic Jack. People whose opinions on these things I respect, especially Jack, because seriously, how can you not trust a man that tall? No man as tall as Automatic Jack could be bad, that's just a fact, and that's why it's his stream footage that we're using here. Go and subscribe and love him and tell him that we sent you, thank you. They do know a good raid when they see one, and I'm sure that they would give all of the exact same disclaimers as I did, but the general opinion on Dazar'alor certainly seems to be this raid is a belter to a pretty startling degree.
I can't tell you how happy I am to see Battle for Dazar'alor looking as good as it looks. It's not even made by the same people. It's unbelievable to me that this is made by the same company. It makes no sense, and I'm so goddamn happy, and I hope you guys are too.
See, and for me, it's not just a relief to hear those reports, but genuinely exciting too. And the best thing about all of the praise this raid is getting in testing so far is that everyone wants to tell me how creative the fights are, and how that creativity generally really pays off. So Whether you're fighting the Bling Elemental and negotiating Indiana Jones-style traps and features, or tackling Rastakhan in the Shadow Realm, or the Mekkatorque fight, where famously by now I think 2 players at a time get shrunk down and then each have to jump into a mech suit which will give them the code that the other player needs to enter into their mech suit to unshrink themselves, which makes voice comms obligatory, you'd have thought, or whether they are fighting Jaina on a boat. Okay, so it's a multi-phase fight that also takes place partly on an iceberg too, but it starts on a boat, and Jaina ice blocks when you bloodlust. So yeah, you're using bloodlust as a tactical mitigation spell to take Jaina out of the fight for a bit so that you can focus on something else rather than as a flat damage buff as usual. Or the fact that some of you are sitting there right now thinking, wait, why do I fight Rastakhan? I'm Horde. Or why am I fighting Jaina? I'm Alliance. Because you legit haven't heard yet that for 3 bosses in this raid, your Alliance human will become a Blood Elf, complete with Blood Elf racials to play through the Horde-only bosses in the raid in flashback at the end. And the same happens to Horde players at the beginning of the raid to fight the Alliance-only bosses. The entire thing is an outrageous firework display. It's ballsy, it's risky, and everyone I've spoken to says it's very, very fun. And this is great to hear at any time, but especially now. Every day we get messages from people asking if it's worth coming back for 8.1, and I never really know what to say because people find fun in so many different things in WoW. But I think it's a safe bet that if you like raiding, then you're probably going to want to see Battle for Dazar'alor, because even if it does totally fail, which it might, the whole swapping faction bit might just be totally lame and broken. Some of these fights that seem awesome now could be horrible after a week or two. It seems inevitable that some bits are going to be the mother of all LFR shit shows, but even if all of that is true, this is still going to be a raid that people talk about in one way or another for years to come, and that's the kind of thing that gets me hyped, you know? And sticking on the PTR and keeping that Amber Warning bot up for the time being, there's been some significant changes to Darkshore this week, both in the zone itself, the things in it, and perhaps most important of all, the things that happen in it. But first off, the tour, because just like Stromgarde before it, this is a zone that has been revamped with an upcoming Warfront in mind. And even though the modernization isn't as sweeping as in the Eastern Kingdom zone, there's a much better sense of this being the site of an ongoing conflict and power struggle between the 2 factions. So you have encroaching Alliance ships firing at Forsaken forces on the shore. There's Lord Danelle, completely blighted out and dead. There's the return of Orbadine Port for the Alliance, which brings back the kind of feels I haven't had since, well, last week when I could still play Classic actually, but you know, proper feels. And the port isn't the only resurrection going on here either. One of the rares you encounter in the new Darkshore is the new Soggoth the Slitherer. The huge faceless one that the Twilight's Hammer began trying to bring back in Cataclysm is back! And okay, he's a bit smaller than you might expect. This was a skull you needed scaffolding around to climb, don't forget. And he carries the diminished debuff, telling us that he hasn't yet fully manifested into this world, which is probably why he's killable by a lone hunter and not dishing out the kind of world-ending death and terror that Twilight's Hammer were probably hoping for. But it's nice to see him back anyway. Wait, hang on. It's almost like Blizz are trying to foreshadow how when the factions get too caught up in destroying each other, it's always a possibility that long-forgotten old god type stuff can happen without us even noticing. No, sorry, that's just stupid. There's no old gods in Battle for Azeroth. I don't know what came over me, sorry. And yet another resurrection that you'll find in Darkshore in 8.1, of course, is Delarin's Summer Moon. And this is where we put up our red spoiler alert bot, because it's time to talk about the Horde scenario leading up to the Darkshore Warfront, and some interesting changes which look to solve a lot of the problems people had with the way the action unfolded originally. And there's plenty that people weren't happy about, like the way all the Night Elves we raised were happy to become Dark Rangers on the spot, becoming Horde loyalists and turning their backs on maybe 10,000 years of service to Elune the second their eyes turned red. There was the fact that we, the Horde player, had to raise them all at all. And then of course there was the Tyrande question and the apparently slightly underwhelming power gain that she received from becoming the fabled Night Warrior, which made her look cool admittedly, but for some reason wasn't enough to allow her to beat Nathanos in single combat with Malfurion's help. And lo and behold, in this week's build there are sort of fixes for all of these things. Now, for example, Tyrande has been made extra specially more badass, gaining loads of moon-based powers and abilities that fill the screen with special effects and make the whole fight a lot more impressive. With all this going on, there's never any possibility or feeling that she's ever in danger of losing the fight. It really does feel like Nathanos and the Valkyrie and you, the player character, are just trying to hold out as long as possible against her. And when she kills the Valkyrie towards the end of the encounter, she does it by dropping a moon on her. and I love it when moons get dropped on people, so basically I'm sold. Tyrande is a badass, you've totally won me over there, fair play. Also, brilliantly, a new choice option has been added to this storyline too. When the Thanos orders you to execute the defeated Syrah Moonwarden, you can flat out refuse, and he does it for you. And okay, so this isn't as big a deal as the Saurfang Zappyboy choice we get in the other 8.1 scenario, but it's still a very welcome addition, and it just proves how easy it is to give players the feeling that they're not just going along with any old evil ass shit that their undead overlords are dumping on them. Because obviously this choice, whether to execute a night elf who will die in 3 seconds whether you do or not, changes absolutely nothing, but it doesn't need to. A simple dialogue option is enough to help my troll shaman feel like he's not just mindlessly following orders that he doesn't agree with. I mean, yeah, where was the choice when the tree burned, right? I know, seriously, but I think the whole point of Teldrassil going up in smoke is that it wasn't up to anyone except Sylvanas. And now we are getting small decisions to make here and there. That actually helps to highlight how helpless we were to do anything in the pre-patch. And as for those raised night elves being all like, for the Horde, quicken the raiding guild that's just decided to get serious and go for world first, well, now some of them refuse to be raised. When you summon the Valkyr to turn them into Dark Rangers, you're told there are no willing souls present. Which at first I liked because it showed that the night elves did have some choice in the matter. Then I really didn't like because honestly, it raises more questions than it answers. Like, I always assumed there was kind of a mind control element to all of this. That was certainly implied by the way Delarin and Syrah instantly flip, but somehow the fact that it seems more a genuine choice that the Night Elves make makes the ones that choose to serve the faction that literally just killed them and destroyed their home even more baffling to me. Continuity ruined, suspension of disbelief equals 0, absolutely game breaking. Thanks for nothing, Blizzard, from a Night Elf lover of 15 years, fish you! I won't play the game World of Hordes. But don't forget, there's no shit show this week, apart from that one we already did before we said there wouldn't be one. And anyway, like I say, these are concerns I share. If I think about it though, I guess I can believe that there totally is a mind control element going on here, and that the Night Elves who can't be raised have managed to resist that domination rather than the ones who are raised choosing it. And this is absolutely seemingly confirmed by the flavor text of one of the toys you get from this scenario, Brynja's Beacon, which says, "It is said only the most powerful can dominate the wills of the risen." So yeah, you can stop writing that comment saying how wrong I am right now, because I am definitely right. And actually in my run, the majority of the Night Elves did manage to resist me raising them, which was a little bit annoying to be honest, you know, I've got a quest to do, but I appreciate the gesture. So this makes sense to me, especially when I remember Tyrande and the Night Elves in the End Time dungeon, where they think Elune has forsaken them and they panic and their judgment is clouded to such a degree that they start attacking their allies. We've established long ago that Night Elves do not react well to the thought that Elune isn't looking out for them anymore. And then there's Brynja's Beacon just flat out proving that the Valkyr can dominate the wills of those they raise, so there's that too. So I buy it. For now, especially as there is clearly more to the character of Delarin Summermoon that hasn't been explained to us yet. Now that's a character I'm very interested in finding out more about in the future. And I'll be honest, my going along with all of this may have something to do with the cool new toys you get in this scenario as well. Because as well as proving me right about mind control, Brynja's Beacon also turns all spirit healers into Valkyr for 24 hours, and there's also a cowl that lets you become a High Elf Dark Ranger for a bit too. I mean, this toy will obviously be useless when Dark Rangers become an allied race in 8.3 like I predicted, but you know, until then, it's great. Now at the moment, these toys are only obtainable by Horde players in this scenario, but are usable by both factions. So we'll have to see how that one ends up. Oh, wait a minute. This is the sofa bit. We're supposed to do, it's your section now, with the presenting and the sass and the funniness,
Look,
yeah?
I know, I'm
and
sorry.
Spoiler bots everywhere.
I'm sorry.
Spoilers.
We didn't have time to do my bits, but I'm here with the sass. I'm here
How
now.
much sass though? Because it's one thing having sass when you're by yourself. Doing
Yeah.
it is another thing if I'm within like sass range.
Well, it helps when you're around me, actually.
It helps keep that under
To
control.
just inspire the sass.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I don't like the sound of that. So we do still have some things that we need to talk about, which we would have put into your section, but which circumstances conspired against us to stop happening. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss was, of course, WoW's 14th anniversary.
Hey!
That's a thing which is happening right now.
Happy 14th birthday.
How long have you been playing now?
Ooh, a little less than that.
Yeah.
Maybe 9th.
Nine. You're such a noob.
9th anniversary for me.
You're such a fake gamer. You've only been playing this game for 9
I know, the same
entire
game
years.
for 9 whole
You're
years.
such a fake, you noob.
Log in, check your mail, you get some cool stuff. you get some time warped badges, which you can then spend on even cooler things, including the Corgi glasses, the name of which I can't remember.
I can't even remember.
They're like
either,
the super mega.
Honestly, who cares what they're called?
Corgi glasses.
Yeah, like it's the glasses that make everything look like corgis.
Everyone.
All friendly NPCs and characters.
Yep.
So basically, it's the only toy you're ever going to need. It's the best thing that's ever happened in WoW. I basically only play WoW in 10-minute bursts now, every half an hour. I can't play for longer than that because if I have to see actual normal people now, it looks so horrible.
It's like corgis on horses, corgis with wings.
What's your favourite one?
Anduin Corgi.
I knew you were going to say it, because he's on the throne.
Yeah, it's a dog.
He's so
on the
cute.
throne.
I need to go into Antorus and see if the Titans become corgis. Please, if you have done this, photos or it didn't happen. Tweet us. I need photos of the Titans in the Pantheon with the corgi glasses
Does
on.
Illidan become a corgi?
I bet he does.
When he's on Argus.
Should we go to Ordesilus Point? Right, that's the next thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
Another thing I really like about the WoW anniversary celebrations is because they're the same every year.
Yeah.
I like that to get the to get more time warp badges, you go to like your lore guy in whatever capital you're in.
Lore.
It is lore in
Yeah.
Stormwind,
Yeah.
or if it was Welsh, it'd be Hlor, because double L is a sound in Welsh.
Yeah. Or in Spanish, he'd be Rior.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. You see, you didn't even need the subtitles. You're watching in Spain or Wales. Just think people in Wales never understand what we're talking about because we don't speak Welsh. And just for once, they did.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well.
And he asks you like a trivia question about WoW. And I'm always like really nervous because obviously, kind of like a professional WoW player, any of them wrong, I feel really, really stupid.
Yeah.
And the other thing was we wanted to talk about was more questions being answered. Because Evitel, you and I were there.
We were there.
The WoW Q&A at BlizzCon. We were sitting there and we were watching the Q&A happen and we were watching like Ian be like, okay, so we're not gonna do that thing you just asked us to do. And we were sitting there, you know, listening to it, going, oh, that's very interesting. And I got a little nudge on my arm and it was Evitel.
I was like, look, it's Chris Metzen.
And Chris Metzen pops up and he's like, yeah, love me. And
Well,
everyone's like,
I spotted him kind of before. I spotted him when he was in line.
and obviously he did the like, love me, and everyone was like, yeah, we love you. And that took about 5 hours. And then that kind of inspired one of the dudes asking the questions who tried to do the same thing. But that meant there were loads of people that couldn't ask their question at the end, including one lovely looking lady who I think was in like a Draenei cosplay or something.
She had horns.
I'm going to say Draenei then.
Yeah,
I hope so.
or she could be a demon hunter, you know.
Yes, maybe it was that. She was right at the front, so I couldn't see her. But she almost asked her question.
she was right
and then
there,
she
and they
didn't,
were
and then
like,
she almost asked it again, and she didn't. And there's a whole queue behind her. But now, as promised, Ian and I guess it's probably just Ian. It's probably just Laura actually. Has answered these questions officially, and there's a couple of interesting ones. The one that's causing like all of the talk said, "Warforging's terrible. I don't like it as ever."
When is it leaving?
When is it leaving? It's a will you be getting rid of it? Was the question, because like the answer was in all the tweets I've seen, the answer was like one sentence, just not likely. Which I thought was a beautiful answer, but then actually there's a long, and it's because of that long involved answer that that wasn't the shit show this week, to be honest, because I thought that was it. I thought that was the moment. I spied it. I was like, oh, well, there we go. That's that section sorted then. Fantastic. But Ian gives pretty much the same explanation that he always gives about Warforged and Titanforging gear. I feel like you either kind of accept that or you don't at this stage. But just for the record, Evitel, what are your views on Titanforging and Warforging?
Because I'm not a hardcore Mythic player. Surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But you are a curve player, though. It's not like you're some scrub.
Yeah. I would say I'm a curve level player. Yeah. But because I don't really go beyond that, it doesn't really bother me. So anytime anything Warforges or Titan Forges, I get quite excited. Obviously, when it happens to other people, I get immensely jealous. Because there are some people in our guild who kind of like always get it, always. So it's, I have to say I kind of agree with Ian on his points when he says that it adds some flavor and some excitement. And it means that, you know, say if you get a Titan Forged LFR piece, that's better than something in Mythic. Cool. But that doesn't mean all of your gear is up there. Yeah. It means you have one really, really good piece of gear and it'll kind of help you progress a little bit.
What would you say to those who are like, but what it means is it's just like impossible to kind of aim for your BIS, your best in slot, like across your character. And those people would say that when you achieved that BIS, that's when the game kind of started for them in a way, because they were finally like on equal footing with anyone else in the game. That's when you could start like really going for rankings and things like that.
Yeah, that's tricky. I think that's a lot harder.
I mean, obviously that's a minuscule amount of players overall, but I mean, I guess it's a real thing. I personally don't like Warforging and Titanforging in principle. It's one of those things that I go, oh, well, no, I don't like that. Ugh. And in Legion, I really hated Titanforging and Warforging. And I feel like they've really toned it down in BfA. I feel like it just doesn't happen as much, and like it's not something people are relying on as much, like to actually.
Although it does happen every time you open your mythic chest and you get the same like 380 bracers.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. At least that's my case.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I only get bracers in my mythic
I only
quest.
get bracers, and they always Titan Forge, but they're always the same item.
And they never have haste.
And they never, and
they can get out.
So that's like the one. And then there was also a question about villains in World of Warcraft and how there's always the need for more of them because we keep beating them, obviously, because we're heroes. And there's that bit at the end where he says, those of you who are kind of looking for them, there are always clues for who the next
Oh, they're always sowing
boss
the seeds and foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about that?
I can't think of anyone that could possibly turn into a baddie right now in the lore and in the plot.
No.
Like there's just no one that I can think. Who do you think?
I don't know.
But I also think there's a part of me that would really enjoy one expansion where the baddie just came out of nowhere. And like literally the expansion started with the baddie just landing on Azeroth with a huge army and being like, screw you guys, I'm killing everything now. And we're like, oh, well, we better stop that, I guess.
I guess.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like some dude comes out of space and he's like, I heard you Azeroth guys are pretty badass. I'm going to kill you all. I feel like that'd be fun.
Well, to be honest, the Shah felt like kind of out of nowhere.
Absolutely. And
I mean,
love
we
Mists.
literally went to another continent.
Yeah,
and had a whole
totally.
new, so everything was new.
But everyone knew
like,
before you even started in Mists that Garrosh was going to be the final boss of that.
Sure.
Like that was made public.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of why they purposely haven't done that with BfA. Was because the way it always felt like all the Shah and stuff were quite inconsequential in that respect, because you knew that you'd be finishing on Garrosh. Yeah. What do you think?
There are big bad bosses everywhere.
Yeah, but who is the big bad boss? Who is under your nose? That seed has been sown and it's there. Who is it though?
I think it's Rathian.
Yeah. Although I'm not seeing much foreshadowing of him. Although there's little mentions of him and stuff like that.
That, you know.
You think Rathian's gonna be a big bad boss?
Yeah, it's just funny how many times we've mentioned Arthas lately.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, he's definitely dead.
Yeah, but
he won't be a boss.
Well,
if we went to the Shadowlands, which I predict for 8.3,
and then
there's probably dead people in the Shadowlands. I bet we could fight Arthas.
You could fight every boss we ever fought
with the exact same mechanics.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Just the same fight.
Yes.
And it's the longest raid ever. The longest, most boring raid ever, because all fights you've done before.
Sounds great.
Sounds awesome. Count me in.
Yep,
I'm there. Alterations to PvP pet battles.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, let's go one thing straight. I have literally no interest in pet battles in the slightest. Even when I actually like buy a store pet and people are like, oh, you know, he's got really good stuff. I don't care. He's a little Yeti who is the size of my actual gnome. That's why I bought him. He's brilliant. I don't care if he's good at pet battles. That's something I'm never ever going to do. And until recently, I would have said that PvP pet battles would basically combine my two least favourite things in the entire game. Pet battles and PvP. Get out with that PvP pet.
But now you're hardcore PvP.
Now I'm like a hardcore PvP.
Yeah.
And I still hate pet battles, obviously, because I'm not an idiot. But if you put a hippo mount as a reward for PvP pet battles, I would PvP pet battle.
We'd get you there.
I would arena PvP pet battle every night when I could to get that hippo mount. I'd do it. Because it doesn't look like I'm getting the other hippo mounts. So.
I'm sorry.
Make that the change, Blizzard. Be the change you want to see, and we all want to see a hippo.
Yep.
So make that change. Be that change. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Hell. Thank you for joining us today. If you liked this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to help these videos happen. Guys, without you, there'd be a lot less Taliesin and Evitel. Yeah. So thanks very much. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Automatic Jack.
Oh.
No, I'm like a foot shorter.
I was
than
going to say, you're
Mekkatorque.
not nearly tall
Like,
enough.
I am 6'3" without my heels, and that man is like an Adonis. He is the Argonon to my Gallywix.
Oh.
he's just 10 foot of pure awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not him. From me, Taliesin.
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.